welcome to another episode of the Impel podcast. And today I have with me a special guest, Will Elmore. They call him Mecca. Now I had three people tell me that I needed to have you on this podcast.
Really?
Yes, three people.
I wonder why.
I don't know, but we're about to find out today.
Oh, okay.
So what I'd like to do is dive right in.
Let's do it.
And so tell me, what you was charged with?
I was charged with first-degree murder.
First-degree murder.
Yeah.
And how long did you do?
25 years.
Now, what happened to lead you to getting 25 years?
The short story is I accompanied a friend of mine on a drug deal that went terribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Shots were fired.
Mm-hmm.
A man died.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on the run for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Got arrested by the FBI in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Got extradited back to Raleigh, North Carolina is where the incident happened.
Okay.
Got extradited back from Georgia to Raleigh,
Mm-hmm.
went to trial, claiming my innocence of first-degree murder, and got found guilty, and the judge sentenced me to the rest of my natural life in prison.
Natural life?
Natural life. I was 21 years old.
So how did you get out if you was sentenced to natural life?
First and foremost, by God's grace.
Right.
Second of all, as someone who got their sentence before 1992,
Mm-hmm.
there was something called a mutual agreement with the Probation and Parole Commission.
Mm-hmm.
A MAP is the acronym, MAPP.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to me, I was eligible for that because I got my sentence
Mm-hmm.
before the law had changed.
Mm-hmm.
There was something called structured sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell under the guidelines of being eligible for a MAP. But just because you're eligible does not mean that you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And after 22 years of my sentence, I got a letter from the Parole Commission that basically said, we've been checking you out. We do this sometimes. We think you're a good candidate, and we want to interview you. We might be ready to give you a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and met the Parole Commission, transferred from the facility I was at the time that I got that letter, went to another prison and sat behind a table much like this across from the Parole Commission during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically said, I know this is new to you, it's strange to you, but it's a second opportunity for a second chance. Do you think you can maintain yourself if we gave you that second chance? And
Right.
of course, I said yes to that.
Right.
And by God's grace, after 3 years, from the time I signed that agreement, 3 years later, I was paroled out.
Okay. So was you heavy in the drug game, or you say you accompanied someone to?
Well,
so what?
actually, yes, I was myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm from New Jersey, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And my lifestyle eventually became immersed into street activity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always had an entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So anything I could do to buy low and sell high, I did it.
Right.
Legally, of course, at first.
Right.
Rake leaves, shovel snow,
Mm-hmm.
delivered newspapers, all of that kind of stuff most
Right.
young kids think about doing.
Right.
Baseball cards, coins,
Right.
you name it. And my home life became so turbulent because my father, he was an excellent provider.
Mm-hmm.
When my parents got divorced, me being the only boy,
Mm-hmm.
the spirit of providership became mine.
Right.
And if there's anything I learned from my father about what it means to be a man, is to provide and protect.
Mm-hmm.
So me being the only boy, having an older sister 4 years older, and my mom in the household, and watching our life go down a slippery slope of living on one level, I would say upper middle class,
Mm-hmm.
and watching her struggle to try to, I guess, sustain a quality of life that we could afford when he was in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't do it on her own.
But with you having that entrepreneurial mindset of going out finding work legally, why don't you think you could have stuck with that?
Well, I was at 13. I told my mother, I never forget, Mom, I want a job.
Mm-hmm.
And she thought that was so cute. And she said something about you got to have working papers and all of that stuff. And right now, at that age, the only job that I could have done was a paper route.
Right.
And I got that. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never will forget, I brought my first check home. It was cash, I got paid in cash. And I think it was $30-some. And I handed it all to my mother in a manila envelope. I never forget. And I was so proud of myself. And she was so proud of me. And she told me what to do with it. She said, put it in we had these we had these, I guess, Tupperware jars where we kept sugar and flour and all of that.
Right.
We had one that was empty. And
Mhm.
she said, put it in there. And she gave me this big old hug and said, you the man of the house now. And I liked how that felt.
Right.
But I didn't see that my $30-some didn't make a difference to the household.
Mm-hmm.
So me being mathematical and analytical and a provider, I wanted to figure out how I could make more money to become more of the man of the house. And on my own volition, growing up in the inner city, starting off in a lower income reality, with both my parents evolving into an upper middle class reality. And when my parents got divorced, we started going backwards. We wasn't moving on up. We was moving back down. And I didn't understand why. And asking my mother a lot of adult questions and her not trusting in me enough to understand adult answers, she would give me some superficial explanations about why our quality of life was depreciating. Again, I started leaning on my own understanding. I knew all the street guys. I knew enough street guys. I knew how to hustle, man. I remember going to Chinatown. From Newark, New Jersey to Chinatown is maybe 20 minutes.
Right.
I remember going to Chinatown, buying fireworks wholesale, bringing them back to Jersey, selling them retail. So I always had that motivation. And some of my friends who were always older, they were already selling reefer.
Right.
And they saw the hustle in me, and then they introduced me to a quicker way to make more profit off my initial investment. And there began my lifestyle of illegal activity.
Right. So you didn't have any positive, after your father left, you didn't have any other positive role models around?
I didn't have a positive example of the importance of work. I had so many people in my family that worked. 2-3 jobs, but they was struggling financially.
Right, yeah.
I didn't understand why. I thought work really was overrated. It didn't solve our problems. Right. Every time I heard adults talking, it was always about money problems, but they all had jobs.
Right.
So mathematically, it didn't add up. Here I am wanting to work, thinking that was going to help out, but I'm surrounded by people that's working all the time, and we're not getting anywhere. So as an adult, I found out it wasn't just work. It was a lot of mismanagement of funds. But work just didn't ring as enough to me at that time. And not just in my household, in my whole environment, man. Right. Most of my peers, their parents worked.
Right.
But we ain't have nothing.
Right.
And they didn't have nothing. And we weren't dire straits poor. I ain't have holy jeans or holy shoes, but I told you I hustled. I shoveled snow. If I wanted the sneakers that I wanted, I went out and hustled for it. If it was time to make some money in the wintertime, I was glad when the weatherman. I watched the news to predict the weather so I could get my shovel and count how much money I was going to make before I came back home.
So you wanted it to snow?
Yeah, heck yeah. The deeper the snow, the more money I would make.
Right,
yeah,
right.
And I was always driven that way.
So tell me more about your father, him leaving. After he left, did y'all have a relationship any?
No, sad to say, he's passed away now. He's probably been dead maybe 2 years. But when my parents got divorced, which was a process, my dad was, like I say, a provider and a protector and an alcoholic. He had a lot of personal issues he never could reconcile himself to, and he leaned on alcohol, and he became very abusive to my mother. And as a kid, me being confused about that, like, you're my dad, you causing a lot of pain to my mother, which in turn became my pain. Right. He was gone all the time also because he was a truck driver. Right. So he drove like across the country. So when he went to work early Monday morning, I didn't see him until maybe Saturday morning. And when he came home, he was usually asleep or working on his car or get ready to get dressed and go out, which in most cases led to womanizing. So my dad wasn't home a lot either way. And he was so distant in a sense. And again, I watched our lifestyle go from lower income to upper middle class through him and my mother working both together, both incomes. The process of the quality of our life increased. When they got divorced, he didn't look back.
Right. So do you think, besides financially, mentally, it affected you?
Oh, emotionally, right. Mentally, every way. Right. I've always been the kind of person that understood what it meant to feel affected by something. I wasn't one of those kind of kids or guys that act like something didn't hurt when it did.
Right.
Yeah, it bothered me.
Right.
Yeah, clearly. I was an A-B student in school.
Okay.
Home life got so turbulent that school became my safe haven. I was glad to go to school because I was able to block out what home was like.
Right.
So, unbeknownst to my teachers, I was just a good student. Had no idea what was going on at home. Right. When I got home, so much drama and chaos sometimes, I couldn't wait to go back to school.
Right.
So after school, once they got divorced around the age of 13-ish, 14-ish, I got into the streets because growing up, starting off in the lower income area, I was more exposed to crime, to criminal activity.
Right.
So after school, I went back to those neighborhoods, which is where my grandparents stayed. My mother's parents stayed there.
Right.
We all stayed there, but eventually my mother and father bought a house in a whole nother type of community. So I spent my extracurricular time going back over there, and then I started mixing and mingling with older guys who was doing a lot of things, and then it didn't take me long to figure out what those things were.
Right. Okay. So going back to your prison time, did you ever think you would get out?
No. I didn't know how that was going to go. Initially, when I got sentenced, I thought suicidal thoughts. I would rather take my own life than spend the rest of my life in prison.
Wow.
Again, I think mathematically, I'm 21. The judge said rest of my natural life. That means if I live to be 70, I'd be in prison for 49 years.
Right.
Not going to happen.
Right.
I would rather take my life before I spent 49 years in a place I hated that much.
So you would rather die than live in prison?
Absolutely. Yes.
Explain more about that.
To live in prison for the rest of my life, I'll give you this analogy. I love animals, right? Watched a lot of National Geographic, go to zoos all the time, and I've seen cases where animals get caught in captivity, right?
Right.
Brought and put in cages, fed the best meats. Veterinarians come clip their nails, wash them. I mean, far as put AC in the cage for the summer. All of the luxuries that we think an animal can have. And one day, when they go to check on that animal to put it on display for people to pay and come see, the animal's dead. So they do an investigation to find out what was the cause of death, and they say, we don't know. He was healthy. It was healthy. We fed it well. We did everything we could to replicate its natural diet, and the animal died. In my opinion, the animal died because his spirit was dead, because he knew he was supposed to be free. He wasn't supposed to be boxed in the cage. When we see the animal, it's pacing the cage. It's there for us to look at, maybe throw something at, try to call to it and communicate with it. But he's pacing the cage because he knows he's not supposed to be bound like that.
Right.
It was born to be free, to roam and do what it does by nature. I felt that way in my spirit, that I was dying in that cage, in that prison, in that box. And admittedly so, I would rather have taken my own life than lived in prison for the rest of my life.
So, but with you being in prison, I'm thinking about what you're saying, that you're taking your own life. Your mother, I know she probably had a lot of pain when you went to prison.
Absolutely.
So when she was coming to see you in there, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. When I got my sentence, my mother totally uprooted her life and moved to North Carolina to support me 1,000%, her and my sister.
So that leads me to ask you this. So wouldn't you take her through much pain if you killed yourself?
I probably would have, and I'm sure that I was being very selfish.
Right.
Man, one of the hardest things for me to do was to go to my visit after I got sentenced in Central Prison and tell my mother, look, Mom, I'm not happy here.
Right.
And before I spend the rest of my life here, I'm going to figure out how to take my life. That was, man, I'm full of energy, man. All I know is what it means to live. I don't know anything about dying, but when the judge sentenced me, my mortality became so real to me. And then I felt like, who has the audacity to take my life away in such a way?
Right.
Nah, man, that's not right. And in my turmoil, in my pain, and my confusion, my decision was, if I could figure out how to take somebody else's medication, I'm not no pain freak in that regard. I'm not going to cut my wrists and nothing. If I found a painless way and an immediate way, I wouldn't be here today. However, when I did go to that visit following my guilty verdict in my trial, and my mother came to visit me at Central Prison, and I couldn't even hold my head up.
Right.
And she wondered why, and I finally did get the unction to lift my head up, and I told her that if it did move her, I didn't notice it. She just firmly said to me, "Oh, come on, don't give up. If I'm going to continue to fight for you outside of this place, have enough for yourself to fight for you inside this place. And if you can't do it for you, do it for me." And that was the conversation that changed my whole trajectory.
Right.
Because my mother would tell anybody this: when it comes to me, her son, my yes means yes and my no means no. And when she got me to say yes, even against my own volition, I had to live up to that. Right. And I'm glad I did, of course.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
And I'm alive.
yeah.
No doubt. But I'm not proud of that.
Right.
That mindset. But at the same time, I understand that mindset, man, because I think human beings are created in a much lofty way than animals. And animals have enough unction to know better than what it means like to be bound, man. But we try to convince them that they're supposed to be bound to our will. And I mean, I use that reference. Some animals gnaw their own legs off to get out of traps, and they end up bleeding to death. I honor that. I honor anybody who's willing to give up their life for what they believe in. And that's what I was willing to do, because I knew I wasn't guilty of murder.
Right.
And I ain't trying to convince nobody of that. I'm just describing the way my ether works.
Right. So how's your mental now? You get counseling for you?
Oh, absolutely. Now? Yeah. I've been made privy to a program called Rebuild, and they provide free therapist sessions for black males, period, that's of color, that have been incarcerated. And I run to that because I'm a proponent of therapy. Yeah, and I understand for more reasons than one. I think we all need therapy, because I think we've been forced to perform with a concussion, man, since we got on this side of the world.
Right. Tell me more. What you mean?
Man, black people have been forced to perform with a concussion.
Right.
The concussion of slavery.
Right.
That's exactly what I mean. And with that, everybody has been trying to wonder, why is it so hard for me to perform peacefully in my psyche? The duress of slavery has us dizzy and divided and contentious and frustrated and high blood pressure and poor eating habits. Hey, you got enough podcasts for me to keep going on?
Yeah. But
have you not felt that way?
Wouldn't you say things have gotten better now?
Yeah, it got better, but we got a long way to go, man. You got to think. We got hundreds of years, right, of performing that way. Right. It's going to take some time, a lot of time, to even begin to honor the fact and look yourself in one of these mirrors and say, hey, man, I've been overachieving based on my circumstances.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. But I just always look at it like this. I don't think we will ever catch up or get ahead. And the way I look at it is we just got to do as much as we can, and I hate to say it, as much as they let us, you know.
And I could understand your perspective. I think that's another conversation that we could have, and I'm open to it. I'm not assuming to have any answers to everything, but I do know that I can appreciate historically how we've been trying to live normally as best we can in abnormal, adverse situations.
Right,
yeah, and that's been expected of us by each other and by everybody else.
Right, yeah.
And it's not fair to ask you to get back on the field with a concussion.
Yeah, you're right.
You'll stop the football game, right? You want to sue the NFL if they send you back out there with a concussion.
But some of them like that, though. Some of them get back out there on their own.
Have we not been taught to get back there on our own for a monetary reward?
Right, yeah.
We've been taught to keep doing whatever it takes for a monetary reward. Men have and women have. And we've been taught to like to eat pork. It wasn't our diet. We like it now. We love it so much we sell it to ourselves. We've been taught a lot of things that's unnatural to us, and after a while we learn to like it.
Yeah, we have been taught a lot of lies.
And we'll fight tooth and nail to try to live up to those lies. Yeah, if that's not mental health, what is?
Yeah, I believe a lot of us has been conditioned to not unlearn You know,
It's a fear to let go. You know, there's this idea that if what I've been doing got me to this point, then it's good enough for me to keep on going.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people think like
And
that.
I think that's foolishness, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't. They've been told a lie so much they believe it's the truth.
They believe it's the truth,
Yeah,
man. What you gonna do on December the 25th? Huh?
Yeah. Hey, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you.
What you gonna do?
I agree with you.
It'll be here in a minute.
Yeah, it'll be here in a minute. It'll be here in a minute. I've been to screws sometimes, but I try to just let it be what it is.
And again,
that's what
we've learned that
we
too.
learned
To let it be what it is, man. We've
yeah.
been conditioned to say, hey, it ain't that bad, man.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it is, man. Don't make no noise about it.
That's another subject.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So how long you been home?
7 years now.
7 years. Yeah, 7 years.
Feels like 7 days.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any mentoring yourself? Or anything like that?
Yes, I do mentoring professionally and personally. I'm a walking mentor.
Right.
Because I have a lot of people that have mentored me throughout my whole life.
Right.
And I love service work. I like helping people. I like using my vulnerability, my goods, my bads, and my uglies to assist, to give light and insight and help other people, whoever they may be. Formerly, I mentor with an organization in Chapel Hill that a friend of mine started called the Reintegration Support Network.
Right.
I also mentor people through Success While in Transition that myself and Tommy Green have created.
Right, I had Tommy on, yeah.
I also mentor people through my business, community-based landscapers / contractors with Edward Scott.
Right.
And we are therapeutic employers, meaning not only do we hire people that have the skill set, we also mentor them and model what it means to have integrity, to have work ethic, and to understand what you are and who you are and have a sense of self.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm always in a mentoring space. Yeah.
And do you think, did you, doing all that, was it hard to get into it as far as proving yourself that y'all can be mentors or help others out? You know, do you have any pushback?
I was aware that as a black male with a felony, particularly or specifically a violent crime, who would want me around their kids? Like my mentorship initially started with teenagers, and now it's just adults and whoever. Right. But I understood that there would be some reservation. You know, these guys come out of prison talking that mentor talk. I don't want them around my kids. Right. And you know what else I sadly realized?
What's that?
That a lot of these parents just wanted a babysitter. They was less interested in meeting myself directly and more interested in making sure that their kid was with somebody else. But my style is that I made sure that the parent met with me as well. I was not going to mentor your kid without meeting you. Right. I needed to meet you to get a sense of you, and I wanted you to get a sense of me. Right. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, it was some pushback, but in the process of writing my book, which, by the way, is called Prison from the Inside Out, by myself, Will Elmore, and Susan Simone, I met with her at Whole Foods one day, which soon as I got out of prison, maybe a week later, and she asked me, what's it feel like to be out? I said, it's surreal. And she said,
you already knew her? Or?
Yeah, I met her while I was on the inside. Okay. She used to come into the prison and do a book club.
Okay.
And when I got out, she wanted to actually see me out. Right. So we met at Whole Foods, and she said, what's it like to be out? I said, I don't have words for it. It's very surreal. Right. And she said, do you ever wonder what other people may think? And I said, not really. I said, because nobody really knows that I just got out of prison. I said, if I spent any energy wondering what people thought, it would be because I'm a black male. Right. Because I can't hide that. I could hide the fact that I've been in prison. So I don't even allocate my energy that way. I get pushed back anyway when I come in a room, sometimes. Right. Sometimes I sense it, sometimes I don't. It's just something that I live with as a black male, along with having a felony. So, again, my awareness of the pushback that comes with me being me is what it is. I don't pretend that it's not there, but I learned to just keep moving and be me throughout it, regardless. Right.
Now, did you like I asked you that because when I first came home after doing my time, you know, it's like they had we had a big meeting downtown, and they had us all in one room, FBI, the agents, the county, the counselors, all that, and they basically told us like we were watching y'all. Like they wasn't giving us a chance to change or nothing. Like we got our eye on y'all. So everything you do,
It's
this and that,
it's under
under
surveillance,
scope.
so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you that question. And I remember standing up talking and saying my piece. I can't remember what I said, but it came off the top of my head because I was angry. I'm like, hold up, I just stood up, started talking, in the.
How did that go?
I got a standing ovation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your authenticity kind of warranted that.
Yeah. And that's what happened. So that's why I asked you that. Was you getting any pushback? Being fresh out, trying to do the right thing.
I think that I've been my ability and being blessed to be associated with the right kind of people and not being from here.
Right.
See, I don't have a history here.
Right.
Where there's this idea about me.
Mm-hmm.
My crime happened in Raleigh.
Right.
I don't know anything about Durham.
Right.
My family moved here, so I paroled here.
Right.
So I kind of got a fresh start.
Right.
And with that, my association with some good people helps me to be considered, I guess, less of a threat or less of a problem. My association has covered a multitude of pushback, I believe.
Right.
However, I'm a firm believer in my ether and my introduction of myself by how I do everything that I do.
Right.
And I don't have a problem pushing through the pushback to get where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Man, I tell myself every day, man, you endured 25 years in the penitentiary, man. All this other stuff, man.
Right.
It's a small thing.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So, is your mother still living?
Oh yeah.
How's she doing?
Her name is Bessie. You ever seen the movie Benjamin Button?
No,
Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Well, those who are listening will understand. I call her Bessie Button because her age is going up, but her energy is going in reverse, man.
Right.
She's thriving, active, and she's so much of my inspiration, man. She's living her life, man. When I got out of prison, she told me all the time, man, I got a lot of things on pause.
Right.
Until you get out of here. When you get out of here, I'm gonna live my life, and it's not a day go by she not doing something to exemplify what she meant by living her life, man. I'm always inspired by her.
That's good. And do you have any kids, any family? Did you have any kids?
No children. Okay. I have a sister, like I said, is 4 years old, and I have a wife.
Okay. So how long you been married?
I've been married right at 6 years.
Okay, that's good. So what is what's next for you?
I don't know. Whatever I decide to do. I mean, I'm excited every day, man. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. All of my work that I do is an expression of myself.
Right.
So I'm very fulfilled by that. And I don't know, man. Sky's the limit, man. My work kind of leads me in certain places and directions where I get these inspirations.
Right.
I started a community-based landscaping with a friend of mine that I known in prison. I started Success While in Transition with another friend of mine.
Right.
So tomorrow I could wake up and say, man, let me try this or try that.
Right.
I mean, one of our modules through SWIT is you either win or you learn, man. So I don't think anything I may try will be a failure if I don't get it where I want to get it.
Right.
It's just a learning opportunity, man. So again, I ain't afraid to try anything that I believe in. If I don't believe in it, I'm less likely to try it.
Right. I'm gonna have to come down there and check you out. So y'all operate inside a building, a
inside
house?
a transition house.
Okay.
Yeah, one in Durham and one in Hillsborough.
And y'all have classes.
Yeah, we have classes. Yeah, on Wednesday nights, and they're open to the public.
Okay.
They're on Wednesday nights from 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make it down there one night. I just come in and sit in.
Oh yeah, you come in, sit, raise your hand, participate. It's very open. It's very kind of warm and welcoming, and everybody can participate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Or you can just sit there and not say a word, take notes,
and
critique us. We open. We're not thin-skinned guys, man. You know the story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else? Or how can people find you on Instagram, Facebook, anything like that? You do anything?
Nah, I don't get into the social media that much, man. But I mean, you have my email address.
Yeah.
And you know how to get in touch with.
Well, tell the people your email address in case they want to get with you.
Well, my email is swill81170@yahoo. My book is on Amazon. It's called Prison from the Inside Out. You can look that up. And it's also on, in prison they have tablets now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard
it's It's in the educational section on the tablet. So guys can download it for free.
Okay.
And read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm around town, man. I don't know how much information I don't understand the social media like that. What you should give out and what you shouldn't give out. Yeah. I really don't know how that works because I'm more face to face kind of guy. Right. And thus far, I haven't transcended into the social media lane. Right. But I'm around, man. I'm available. I don't meet strangers. Right. And I love giving my story away because it's not mine. I'm a steward of it. I'm a vessel that tends to share it.
Right. Well, I know some people used to ask me that question, like, why you so openly tell people that you've been to prison? I said, because it don't bother me. It's an experience I went through.
It's therapeutic for me to give it away because once I tell you that's your problem. It's not mine. I did my time already. Yeah. Right. I'm not carrying that. So if I share that with you and it causes you to be taken aback, that's how you deal with it, man. Yeah, that's how they deal with it. Yeah, I dealt with it. I did it. Right. So it's everything else pales in comparison to having to do that time.
That's right. Well, that's it. I'm glad to have you on.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah. I appreciate you, man.
There you have it for another episode of the Impel 4 podcast. Stay tuned to the next episode.
Peace.
If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Impel 4 podcast.